The Public Service Minister, Ayanda Dlodlo, has started her new job at the World Bank in the United States. She's one of 3 board members representing the interests of 25 African member states, and that's so important. Dlodlo has held various ministerial portfolios in the past, including the high-profile state security portfolio during last year's July unrest. So there's a lot to talk about with Ms. Dlodlo. She joins us all the way from Washington this morning. Ms. Dlodlo, good morning to you, or good evening to you. I'm not sure what time it is over in Washington, but I appreciate the time. First of all, congrats on the new job. Are you settling in? Ms. Dlodlo, let me just stop you for a second. I think your microphone is on mute. Maybe just check your mic for me. There we go. Good morning.
Yes. Thank you so much. Good morning even for me, because it's just after midnight, so it's Wednesday morning for me here as well. I have joined the World Bank as an alternate executive director for now, representing Nigeria, Angola, and South Africa.
So when did you officially take on this position? And when we're talking about being a representative of African interests over in the US, tell me why that's so important. What impact are you hoping to have over at the World Bank?
I started on the 1st of April through the National Treasury. And the interest really for me was about expanding my knowledge base on issues of economic development, not only in Africa, but the world over, looking at the economic global outlook and also being part of the process that also assists countries in the alleviation of poverty and to promote shared prosperity in a sustainable way, as is the mission of the World Bank Group itself.
So do you miss politics? Do you wake up in the morning going, thank heavens, I don't have to watch the news, I don't have to read newspapers, politics is behind me? Are you breathing a sigh of relief?
It is some type of politics, although it's political economy, in a sense. But it's not the type of politics that you would have to deal with as a political office bearer. It is quite interesting. It is very informative. And I think I'm going to like it. I'm just a few days in the job. Basically, I'm 2 weeks in the job.
So do you miss the politics, the everyday politics of South Africa yet?
You know, South Africa is a vibrant political hub for the continent, and that will always be missed. But I'm also going to have the opportunity of being on the outside and looking in, which is going to give me greater insight, but also give me an opportunity to look at things from a different perspective.
So what's the relationship like between you and the President? There were reports that it was strained because of the July unrests last year. What's the relationship between you two?
Well, I don't know if the relationship is strained. I honestly don't. There is I spoke to him a few months before I left, and for all I know, that the relationship is cordial. It is like the relationship between comrades.
It's interesting that you've got this position now at the World Bank, and you're looking obviously at the economy, the eradication of poverty in African member states. And we'll know from last year, the July unrests, Ms. Dlodlo, a lot of it was being reported as the poverty and unemployment rates in our country and the desperation of South Africans. Is that something that you're going to look to address at the World Bank? And those are the key issues, the core grassroots issues, which results in riots like that. I imagine you're going to try and alleviate that in your new job.
Well, you see, I will have to take a mandate on everything that I do from the 3 countries who are the capitals that I represent on the board. So being a board member, you also do not just look at the constituency that you represent, but you look at the globe in its holistic perspective. So much as, for instance, in today's board meeting, we were discussing the issue around Ethiopia. So it is those type of meetings that one gets involved in, that looks at the fragility of states, that looks at conflict, that looks at violence, that also looks at what it is that can be done from a World Bank perspective, World Bank Group perspective, to ensure that there are interventions that we employ but not on our own, obviously, at the behest mostly of these countries, of other countries, but it is a relationship between those countries and the World Bank Group.
Was it unfair that the police minister, Becky Cele, faced no real action, it seems, but many people suggesting you were a scapegoat because of the July unrests last year, but the police minister, nothing really happened to him? Did you feel that to be unfair? Did you feel that you were some kind of scapegoat?
Well, I had felt that I was scapegoated to a very large extent, but I am not going to throw anybody under the bus. I will take it that things happened in July. Unfortunately, as they happened, more than 300 people died, more than 50 billion was wiped out of our economy. So for me, it's a very, very serious issue because I hold very dear to my heart South Africans, and what happens to South Africans affects me also as a citizen. So it was one of the darkest moments of our democracy where more than 300 people were killed. And I think the collective burden of blame that the president says should be borne by cabinet, I think is the right approach to handling this whole issue of what happened in July. And as you correctly say, we always need to be vigilant of such, because as we deal with issues, we should also look at the fragility of states. We should also look at the poverty, unemployment, and inequality indices in those countries, so that we deal with issues from a holistic perspective rather than only looking at the security cluster. So I would really not want to delve into Minister Becky Cele, whether or not he should have been fired, but the issue here is bigger than Minister Becky Cele, because it's really an issue that speaks to the dire nature of the economy that is borne about by history, but that is also borne about by what we're experiencing in terms of during and possibly post-COVID, there will still be problems. But as I see, I mean, watching you as you were speaking this morning, there's also other issues that now come up, having to deal with the drought, having to deal with the floods that are occurring in KZ. And so there's a lot of moving parts every time when you look at the political and economic landscape of any country.
And KZN in itself at the moment, Dlodlo, is also very tricky. The poor province, we had these July unrest last year, the flooding. Now KZN is just in a state at the moment that I think is difficult to believe. I'm curious just to get your thoughts on this, because I want to talk about the World Bank again in a moment. What do you think could have been done differently last year? Surely over a glass of wine on a Friday night, your friends have asked you, what could have been done differently? Take me into your confidence. Take me back. What could we have done differently?
I think, as I have said at the Human Rights Commission, we had 4 warnings. And the 4 warnings were not just about security interventions. They were broader than just security interventions. And I think these 4 warnings in future should be taken very, very seriously. We should plan around mitigating the rise of such things in future based on intelligence that is given. Now, intelligence is never just precise on issues. You still need to go in from a law enforcement perspective to look at what could be done. Intelligence is not going to tell you certain things, but it will give you foresight and forewarning about what could happen in the country, but also what could happen from a geopolitical perspective.
So I think you're about to take on this new role. Forgive me, Ms. Dlodlo, I just want to just make sure I ask you this because I'm curious. So career-wise now, the World Bank, huge platform for you to be on, and I'm sure many people wishing you all the best there because of how you're able to represent the African continent and those constituencies. Are you lost to South African politics? Could we see you back here, maybe after Cyril Ramaphosa is no longer president? Do you think it could happen?
Well, I don't know why you're wanting to bring the president into it. I've been in politics from my teens. It's something that I will find very difficult to shake off my bones and my being, and I think I will be involved in some way or the other in the politics of my country. And as I said, if you look at the political economy work that happens around the globe, that happens in these multilateral institutions, I think I will not be lost to the World Bank forever. And South African politics are very exciting and very interesting.
Interesting is one way of putting it, Ms. Dlodlo. Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate your time joining us just after midnight in Washington, as well as the ex-State Security Minister takes on her new job a couple of weeks into her new job at the World Bank over in the United States as well. And it's just interesting to hear as well that not wanting to pass blame over to the police minister, not wanting to name anybody specifically that she thinks should have taken more responsibility, but public opinion was still very much that the police minister should have also taken a bit more responsibility and held more accountable, of course, not just Ayanda Dlodlo. So a very diplomatic,
I was about
very
to
diplomatic interview, I'll put it that way, coming out of Washington, D.C. But nonetheless, all the best to Ayanda Dlodlo at the World Bank.
I was just about to say that you could hear from, her speaking that there's a lot more that she could say about her feelings. The fact that she used the word scapegoated says that there were a lot that she went through in terms of how she felt the president dealt with the matter. But like she said, she did have a conversation with President Cyril Ramaphosa. I think perhaps out of that respect of that conversation, perhaps she would like to leave that behind closed doors. But that, of course, is the now World Bank Executive Director.
That's right.
Of course. And they're representing Nigeria, South Africa, amongst other African countries.
So next time we talk to her, we're going to be, so what are you doing for Africa? That's going to be the next conversation we have with Ayanda Dlodlo.
Definitely should be. All right. So let's